Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome all of our audience members today to Team IFPD's podcast series. We have yet another episode today. And before we deep dive into a very, very interesting topic, I request Ipsha from Team IFPD to please introduce our speaker for the day. Ipsha, I hand it to you.
Thanks, Tanya. Today we have with us Major General Dr. S.B. Asthana, an esteemed veteran infantry general with a distinguished career spanning 45 years in various national, international, and UN capacities. He is globally recognized as a strategic and defense analyst and has authored over 450 publications. General Asthana has received multiple prestigious awards from the President of India, the United Nations, and more, recognizing his contributions in international diplomacy and global conflict resolution. General Asthana is currently serving as the Director of Courses at the United Service Institution of India and is affiliated with several influential organizations, including the Confederation of Educational Excellence and the International Police Commission India. With a rich educational background, including a PhD from JNU and multiple degrees spanning various domains, General Asthana is a distinguished scholar and leader in the fields of strategic, military, and UN studies. Welcome to Diplomacy Unplugged, sir. We are honored to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ipsha.
Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you and your viewers.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sorry about that lag. So I'll ask you the first question that we have for you. So many strategists, geopolitical strategists nowadays, consider the present era to be the Cold War 2.0. How do you think that any ongoing conflict in the Indo-Pacific region distinguishes itself from the Cold War or any previous geopolitical struggles, sir?
Okay. Please let me know in case you can't hear me at any point of time. Firstly, when Second World War ended, everybody thought that now there will be peace. But thereafter, the West, led by United States, started expanding eastwards. And there was a big power contestation between USA and USSR, erstwhile USSR. And that triggered what is called as Cold War 1.0. Now, this Cold War 1.0 is basically that both sides make diplomatic moves, both sides make strategic postures, both sides make their alliances, both sides try and dominate the international arena and also dominate various levers of power, which are economy, technology, and so on and so forth. So therefore, as Cold War 1.0 continued, USA decided to back China and build up China to draw down the influence of USSR in Central Asia as well as many other parts of the world. So that's how Chinese were helped by Americans. And also what USA did was that even in these Central Asian republics, which are now Central Asian republics, they were part of USSR. They made many moves, like Afghanistan. They tried and build up Al-Qaeda. They tried to build Pakistan, that after our partition, they ensured that a certain piece of land, which is Gilgit-Baltistan, that remains with Pakistan. They made this guy surrender. One major who was part of the Gilgit-Baltistan garrison, he surrendered to Pakistan, and that's how we lost Gilgit-Baltistan. So therefore, what had happened was Cold War 1.0 started, and these are all the steps of Cold War 1.0. Now, technically, Cold War 1.0 should have ended once USSR was broken, because that was the aim of Cold War 1.0. But unfortunately, it did not end there. And that's why you will find that USA kept on growing eastwards and started adding more countries to NATO. So initially they started off with 16 countries. Now today there are 32 countries. And this is what was objected by Putin, and that's why we have seen this ultimate of Cold War 1.0, that is Russia-Ukraine war. Now, while this was on, China became quite strong. And therefore, now America is looking at checkmating China in some manner or the other. And they are trying almost a similar kind of strategy, which also includes having good relations with India, because of the kind of relation which we have with China, because of the border issues and things like that. So basically now Cold War 2.0 is on, and the focus is South China Sea and Taiwan. So that is how logically there should have been a transition from Cold War 1.0 to 2.0. But unfortunately, in Joe Biden's administration, they have started fighting Cold War 1.0 and Cold War 2.0 together. And that is where perhaps America is finding that they are losing ground, especially in Middle East. So this is how the Cold War, this is how the Cold War scenario is impacting the entire world. Back to you.
Absolutely, sir. Very, very rich insights on that front. There was just another question that had come in the chat also to us, that a few students wanted to know that, especially during the COVID pandemic, sir, there's been a very increasing and aggressive posturing of China, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. And it's become a very contested region. IOR in general has seen a lot of posturing by China. And in that sense, do you think that any kind of nations joining blocs or multilateral organizations such as SAARC, or for instance, anything that is to do with the global south, is that kind of coalition getting the right kind of appropriate attention by our countries, especially in the Indo-Pacific region, or not?
Certainly, we know that during the pandemic period, China tried to make the best of pandemic, because initially, if you recall, COVID started in China, but they were able to get over it faster than others, because they were hiding COVID for some time, and therefore by the time it spread elsewhere, Chinese had some kind of control over it. So they tried to encash that particular advantage, and therefore you find that they were controlling and they were actually blackmailing the supply chain which they have created. And over a period, because as I mentioned that America and the West wanted to build up China, China has become a global factory. So everybody's supply chain is in some manner or the other connected to China. So at the same time, China also thought that this is an appropriate time if they do, shall I say, a little bit of expansion and excursions and domination of the Indo-Pacific region in terms of making military bases in South China Sea, in some of the islands of South China Sea, or if they go for diplomatic initiatives in certain island countries which were otherwise aligned towards US, then maybe that they will gain something. So, and also after Xi Jinping over power, his clamor for unification of Taiwan also increased. At the same time, they were also looking at increasing their posture towards the Senkaku Island and try and checkmate Japan there in some manner or the other. So therefore, China had expansionist design, and also because it was controlling the supply chain, global supply chain, it was trying to profit out of it. Now, that's why the whole world realized that there is a need for an independent supply chain, there is a need for an independent technological chain, there is a need for independent health chain, and therefore countries must get together this. And that is why you would have found that earlier, although Quad was formed much earlier, but it did not see much traction. It remained only up to the level of a foreign minister at best. But then when all these things happened, Then the Quad started as a summit. And Quad, although says that it is not a military organization, nor it is directed against any country. But one of the overlying principles of Quad is that we should have free and open Indo-Pacific, and we should have based order in Indo-Pacific. So, and who is challenging the two? It is China. So therefore, indirectly, as China says that it is a clique against us, that falls in place. Secondly, the countries who are there in Quad, their navies are cooperating and doing Malabar exercises together. Now, when we do Malabar exercises together, the message conveyed is that, okay, these navies are interoperable. Secondly, there is a fair amount of US fleet also in Indo-Pacific, and other countries also who are joining up very soon. We also saw the emergence of AUKUS. There is 5I. These are as far as the Pacific part is concerned. As far as Indian Ocean is concerned, we have some agreements with France. We also got some bases at some of the other smaller countries. So with the result, what happened was that this whole area started getting contested. Now, one message to China was very clear, that if these countries can do exercises, if they have the interoperability, and if they have military assets postured in this area, then intentions can change overnight. Now, this is something which China is quite uncomfortable about, because this is something that we say that, okay, we are not a military organization, but then the fact is that if you have placed everything in place, and also you got the interoperability, it may not be, it can be, I would say that, sorry, I think there is. So it can well happen that the intentions can change, and therefore we can perhaps posture strongly against China in case China does any misadventure. So this is how the things are playing up. As far as Global South is concerned, this is a relatively new concept, and the fact that we got the African countries and African Union included in G20, this was a major step as far as the concept as well as the conceptualization of Global South is concerned. So India took a big step, and which has been appreciated by everybody, because now the Global South, with 55 countries directly getting added to G20, they can have a voice. So this is how perhaps the Global South is progressing. Earlier we used to have non-aligned nations, but now you find that the alignments are quite sharp, and in an interconnected world, the non-alignment movement, that I think died down at some point of time. But this idea of Global South and idea of inclusive growth and idea of inclusive, shall I say, Indo-Pacific and inclusive South is prospering. Also, the idea of ASEAN, that we are talking about inclusive Quad, which should include ASEAN too. Now, that is what is India's position on this, so that all these countries in Indo-Pacific, they have a common agenda and they have a common interest. So this is how the Global South is playing up, and this is how perhaps we are moving. Yes, there are many organizations. We have Indian Ocean Rim Association. We also have many other smaller organizations which contribute. SAARC somehow has not moved well, for one simple reason, because one of the members, that is Pakistan, unfortunately does not follow anything which a reasonable nation should follow. And in SAARC, somehow when we formulated it, it was that everything will be by consensus. So if somebody doesn't agree, then nothing moves. So with the result, it has almost become a defunct organization, because nothing moves if everybody is not on board. So that is how we have lost out on SAARC. Not we, in fact, all South Asian countries have lost out on SAARC. But then the clamor for expansion of other organizations is taking place. Like BRICS is, people want to join BRICS, people want to join SCO, people want to join other regional organizations to make sure that they get their regional solutions. Okay.
Right, sir. also think that the point that you raised, especially about collaborative action in the with the global South countries, especially in the IOR region, it also has sort of raised a voice for India deploying some kind of active maritime diplomacy. With that being said, do you think that the SEA figures out in this maritime vision that India has set out? We have the India Maritime Vision 2030. Can you tell us a little more about it? And if you can tell our audience also, what kind of challenges is India's strategic and diplomatic efforts being sort of channelized, especially in today's times?
Can you just repeat the question? I think I missed a little portion of question of yours.
Sure. So
can you just repeat the question?
Of course. So we would want to hear a little more from you about India's Maritime Vision 2030. If you can tell us a little more, and what has been India's cooperation with the Global South countries in the Indo-Pacific region in that sense. I remember you talked in the last question addressing the different naval combat exercises that we've been doing, like Malabar, for instance. If you can talk to us a little more about any other such exercises.
Yeah. See, the Indian vision of maritime domain and maritime domain, especially in the Indian Ocean and Indo-Pacific, ours is a slightly different vision than the other Quad members. You would find that the other three Quad members, when they look at Indo-Pacific, when it is US, Australia, and Japan, they look more towards Pacific Ocean. Whereas when we talk of Indo-Pacific, we are looking at that it starts from the eastern coast of Africa and carries on till Japan and beyond. That is our vision. And therefore, whereas the other three sides, they are more Pacific oriented. And that is why you will find that when we look at the maritime vision for, let's say, 2030, we know that Chinese Navy and is expanding very fast. We will not be able to match our assets by 2030. So therefore, we are looking for collaboration. And in this collaboration, in addition to the Quad members, we are looking at the collaboration with France. Why France? Because France has got some real estate in Indian Ocean itself. So France is a resident power of Indian Ocean. They have the territory in Indian Ocean. And therefore, our maritime interests do coincide. And so therefore, we are collaborating with Quad. We are also collaborating with France. And then we are also collaborating with various island countries, whether it is Seychelles, whether it is other smaller nations, where you would have seen Prime Minister visiting a number of them in the recent past. Then we have also started signing, there is something called as logistic agreements, that our ships can go there and then they can refuel and vice versa. Then we are also looking at the expansion of our Navy. Now, there is an expansion plan by 2030, of course, is too short a time because naval ships manufacturing is a costly venture. But certainly, we have made certain big leaps in a manner that we have added one more aircraft carrier. Now we are equipping that with the jet fighters. We are also looking at nuclear submarines. We have got some indigenous submarines. In fact, in the recent past, a maximum amount of indigenization has happened in Indian Navy. So Indian Navy is getting global. The Indian exercises are becoming much more frequent and having many more partners. And we are doing exercise with almost everybody who matters in Indian Ocean. So this is something, and also in Indo-Pacific region, we are doing exercises with Vietnam, we are doing exercises with ASEAN also, and we are doing exercises with Quad members as it is. So you will find we have done some exercises with Singapore also. So therefore, when it comes to interoperability exercises, disaster management, and then we are also now looking at a certain amount of collaboration with United States in terms of maritime surveillance. So that also, when after we have signed some foundation agreements like COMCASA, like many agreements which we signed recently, with that, the transfer of interoperability with the United States has increased. So we have a very, shall I say, healthy state of intelligence exchange, maritime intelligence exchange with the United States. And with these countries, with France, United States, and India put together, there is a fair amount, and our capabilities of surveillance have also increased. So with all these things put together, we are in a fair state to keep monitoring this part as far as Indo-Pacific is concerned. Now, coming on to the second part of your question, that is, what are the strategic challenges to India and how we can overcome them. Now, the first and the foremost challenge is that India is the only country in the world which has two nuclear neighbors, and with both we have the unsettled border. There is no other country in the world which faces this kind of challenge. Now, this is a very peculiar challenge. One of the country, that is Pakistan, is a rogue country. It supports proxy war against us. It supports terrorists, and it has the highest number of UN designated terrorists on its soil. This poses one challenge to us. The second challenge, as far as China is concerned, it has got a global ambition. It is an economic superpower, and also it has an expansionist design. So with that, it is on an encroachment spree not only against India, but against every possible neighbor. So, and it is not specific to India only. They are encroaching in Nepal, they are encroaching in Bhutan. But the only thing is that other countries where they are encroaching in South China Sea. ASEAN is also impacted. So everybody is impacted. But the only country which can stand up against China is India. So that is how we find that we are standing up. And when we talk of the border issue, we have unsettled border. So that again poses a challenge. The challenge is that both sides have a history. Both sides have different position on the border. Both sides feel that their position is right. And our position is certainly right in a manner that it is legally backed, because when it comes to Ladakh, we follow the instrument of accession, which is a legal document by the Maharaja of J&K. And when it comes to the rest of the area, that is in the north, east and northeast, we follow McMahon Line, which is a signed document between British India and Tibet, and initials of China. So we follow that. And as far as China is concerned, their logic seems to be a little flawed in a manner that they say that, okay, I don't agree with any of the agreements which were signed between British India and Tibet. The fact that you annexed Tibet, obviously, if there was a treaty signed by the entity which you annexed, then obviously you have to honor that. So that is where the things are stuck. So they therefore wants to dictate their interpretation of the border, which is 1960 claim line in the other side. And here they say that we own Arunachal, but then India has also played its card well. We were able to merge Sikkim with us very well. We physically hold Arunachal, and that position remains. So Arunachal is ours. They can keep claiming, they can keep taking out any kind of maps, etc., doesn't matter. And there was the other challenge which we face is that there is an infrastructure asymmetry. They had built up infrastructure much faster than us. Their terrain is much easier than us. Building roads and railways in Tibet is much easier than building it in Arunachal, because the mountain gradient is too much on our side. It's too difficult. So that is why we were lagging behind infrastructure. But now I think we are trying to catch up very fast. Now, if they are doing the job of settling the various villages next to the border, we are also doing the same thing. We also have similar plans. So I think India is trying to match everything what China is trying to do on the land borders. And although the challenge exists, but then the better part is that because of the terrain friction of Himalayas, even if China has more military assets than us, it doesn't make too much of difference, because what they can deploy against us in Himalayas, that much we can also deploy. So there is a reasonable parity there. Similarly, China has actually, by virtue of trying to expand far too much in various fields, they have got themselves entangled into a number of fronts. And front against Taiwan and front against Japan is one of them. So with the result, if their assets have to be reasonably divided, because they can't obviously vacate the assets from there and place it here, and they have to place a lot of assets against United States in the Pacific Ocean. So therefore, the net military assets which can be deployed against us, we have to actually cater for that only. Also, India is a geographically better position than China. We can block their supply routes. Their energy supply has to go through Malacca, even if CPEC and China-Myanmar Economic Corridor are functional, yet Malacca Strait is indispensable. So considering this, what happens is that, and we are also now making a lot of construction on the lower side of Andaman Nicobar, which almost touches Malacca Strait. So therefore, I think there are challenges, but I think India is uniquely placed and reasonably placed to meet those challenges. Tanya.
So rightly pointed out about the strategic location of the country. In fact, one point that there was a follow-up to, where you talked about Malacca Strait. So there's this hypothesis, or rather a theory, which has been given by a geopolitical strategy firm long back. It's called Booz Hamilton, and they had spoken about this string of pearls that China is trying to create, especially when it comes to countering any kind of maritime actions. And in that sense, do you think this is actually a reality? Do you think, has India come up with its own counter strategy? And if not, do you think, has China been successful by its infrastructure building, especially in Pakistan, Gwadar Port, with Sri Lanka, and especially all around our neighbors in the Indo-Pacific region?
See, China did try this string of pearls strategy in a manner that they are building bases. They are trying to, they've got this Gwadar port, they are trying to make a military base. Then they're also looking at Sri Lanka, and then Hambantota port. And then they're also they've got something in Djibouti. They're also trying to, if Maldives government is favorable to China, they may be trying to make something there also if required. So they are trying all that, and this is so all these shall I say small bases, if you connect, then it looks like on the map as a string of pearls, and that is what this strategy is all about. But if you go a little deeper into it, the issue is that China also faced a similar kind of string of pearls around it, which is in terms of first island chain and second island chain. Today, the status is China doesn't have more than 12 to 15 bases. USA has 600 bases. And you take any corner of China, USA has got bases all around China in Pacific, because the eastern seaboard of China, you will find Taiwan, it is aligned with US. Then South Korea is aligned with US. Then US is also trying to build up something in Vietnam. Then there are a whole lot of other bases. You go down. So there is first. Then you have Japan. There is a first island chain. Then there is a second island chain. So China feels that it is hemmed in, and all the shall I say colonization, colonial powers which invaded China, they all came from the eastern seaboard. So when we talk of, see, in international relation, everybody does things in his own interest. China also have some challenges, and from their perspective, if you see, they feel that around me, at least I am hemmed in by all these United States bases and the Western bases around me, and I should be the kind of economic power I have. I should be controlling at least the seas around me, and that is why he has started growing his navy, and now his navy, in terms of numbers, is the largest navy in the world. And then it's not only the navy; they have also grown up their fish trawlers, and those trawlers are doing fishing all over the world and banging against smaller countries' fishes when they are trying to stop them. Smaller countries' ships if they are trying to stop them. So China is expanding. String of pearls is only one part of the strategy. The second part of the strategy is mine warfare. They have the largest amount of minesweepers, and then is the case of submarine fleet. They have a whole lot of submarine fleet, and that submarine fleet, at least in numbers, is growing very fast. So with the result, they are encroaching not only through these pearls, but they are also encroaching in terms of the monitoring as well as the surveillance is concerned. And therefore, they are trying to dominate the international water. They are very well aware that Malacca is their choke point, because if Malacca gets blocked, and if they have to use, let's say, Sunda Strait or Lombok Strait, which are a little farther, then the route of the supplies, it becomes longer, and therefore the cost increases, and the capacity of the other states is not that much, and therefore and who controls Malacca Strait? It is USA and India. So that is where they have a challenge, and that's why they want to get into our backyard too, to pose a similar amount of threat. So this is a strategy and counter strategy. So now when you talk of their string of pearls, and you see our actions, the fact is we have also made some logistic arrangements somewhere. We have got into Quad. We have got some reciprocal arrangement with Australia. You've got some reciprocal arrangement with ASEAN countries. Then you see we have also tried to make some arrangements with Vietnam. Then you see Prime Minister out of nowhere also landed up in Mongolia. You see every single country around China. There is no country where we have not extended our outreach in some manner or the other. So there is a strategy and a counter strategy. And India has, all of a sudden, you would have seen that our stance on Taiwan has also changed to some extent. Earlier, we never used to, we used to follow that so-called one China principle of China very ruthlessly. But now, when President Tsai was sworn in, then virtually 2 of our ministers attended it. And now, very recently, you find 3 ex-chiefs landing up in Taiwan together. So these are all signals which we are giving that, okay, we are also getting closer to you in case you want to get closer to us. So that's how it is. And certainly the posturing and the tug of war, that will continue, because we have challenges, they have challenges. They are addressing their challenges in the manner it suits them. We are also addressing, and that is why today, even if we do not agree with US in everything, but we are agreeing with US in most of the things, and we have got a very good strategic partnership, because the interest and the biggest interest which brings us closer is the expansionism of China. That is actually bringing USA and India very close. So that's how I think, and bringing West also a little closer to India because of the China challenge. Tanya.
You brought such a good point, and just one last question that we wanted to bother you with. Actually, the conversation has gotten so interesting for us. We just personally wanted to understand, do you think, because you mentioned Taiwan has become a flashpoint in recent times. That's what a lot of geopolitical strategists have started to talk about. Do you think that the strategic location that Taiwan has and the regional dynamics that are to play, are they like a concocted mix, and will there be any kind of separation that Taiwan would ever face from China? Over to you, sir.
Okay. As far as Taiwan is concerned, you see, Taiwan is the island of Taiwan. This is when Chinese Communist Party took over. then Chiang Kai-shek moved to that island, and he stressed a lot on education and development, and he built a democratic country. So now today's Taiwan is a developed country, and its per capita GDP is much higher than China. It is perhaps the only country which has trade surplus with China, and it has become a tech giant because of the power, that is power of knowledge, and it is rich in knowledge economy. So with the result, and you know that they are the largest manufacturer of semiconductors and chips. So with the result, what has happened is, earlier, let me also get into a little bit of politics of Taiwan, and because that is important to understand as to why things are happening the way they are happening there. Now, what had happened was that when Chinese Communist Party took over China, they, for their own interest, and I told you about Cold War 1.0, the Americans wanted them to be part of Security Council. And that was the time when initially the resolution was passed. It remained in favor of Taiwan because Taiwan was the member of Security Council and not China. And subsequently, the UN resolution which was passed, it never said that there are two Chinas, and it also never said that Communist Party, that is People's Republic of China, is the actual China. It never said that. The wordings of the Security Council resolution is who is going to represent China in United Nations. And because of that, Chinese started saying that we are the only China and Taiwan is part of us, which Taiwan never agreed. Now they also had some kind of agreements between them, which said that we will not change the status quo. Now Chinese interpret it as that Taiwanese agreed that they are part of us. Taiwanese don't agree with that. So there is a confusion there. So with the result, when DPP was in power, that is the political party which is presently in power. Before that, there was another president, Chen Shui-bian. When he was in power, he was hell-bent on independence, on a proper independence. And that time between China and USA, an agreement was brought out which said that, okay, USA should not recognize Taiwan as an independent country, number one. That was one red line. USA should not give nuclear arm to Taiwan. And USA's red line was that you will not change status quo by force. Now, any of the three red lines has not been crossed as yet. There is you will find a lot of noise, a lot of posturing, a lot of firepower display by China. Everything has happened. But this red line is crossed. In fact, not very many would know that there is a small island of Taiwan, which is just about 10-20 kilometers from Chinese coast. And it is much away from Taiwan. But out of all this posturing, not a single soldier of China has landed on that small island, which is just next to them. So no red line has been crossed. So like so many people keep speculating, every day you will find on TV that they are going to fight and China will attack Taiwan, etc., etc. It's not all that easy because USA has tremendous amount of stakes. Because if let's say hypothetically, if Taiwan goes, then South Korea could be the next. And and it also then takes away a fair amount of, dominance of South China Sea. Now, when we talk of South China Sea, it's not only China. The global, about for 60% of the global trade flows there. Everybody, even in the Western countries, have got stakes there. Then that area is very rich in oil. Then there are smaller countries also who are impacted. Then Philippines, they are making a base. And now Americans have made a base in Philippines, which is very close to Taiwan. So when we talk of string of pearls, the Americans perhaps are tightening the string of pearls much more than what Chinese are doing. So with the result, what has happened is that, and now what is the stakes with China? If, let's say, hypothetically, China attacks Taiwan, it doesn't give any advantage in a manner that both spoil their economy. Taiwan will get, which is one of the major source of earning. Bulk of the investments of Taiwan are already in China. So why should it attack? Money is already coming. Why disturb the apple cart? And secondly, so, and they all many of them are married in China. So there can be a major unrest in China itself. And China is not going through a very good phase, because if economy doesn't do well, then Chinese Communist Party has a problem. The entire Chinese population, which is now well educated, which has also seen a lot of the entire world, and they know what the democracy is. They are all tolerating Communist Party and the tighter regime of Xi Jinping only because they are getting a good life and their lifestyle is improving and they are doing well economically. The day this doesn't happen, then they will all resent. So, and also now, if you are engulfing a democratic island, then the same feelings can also start off in your country. So, there are major stakes to play. Apparently, my sense is that China is waiting. Tsai Wing should go away, and there is a party called as KMT. KMT party was quite close to China earlier. They are still quite amenable, and if they come to power, then Chinese have no threat of Taiwan declaring independence, and then I think it will settle down, and all the rhetorics will settle down. So basically, they have put all the stakes that let this election be over. Until then, it will be posturing. Xi Jinping will make a lot of noises. There will be a whole lot of missiles fired. There will be far display. But I don't visualize an attack on Taiwan. Tanya.
Thank you so much, sir. So on that note, given the constraints of time, we will be bringing our sessions to a close. We thank you from the bottom of our heart for sparing all the time you could for today's session recording. I will request you to give us any concluding remarks, especially for the audience and the viewers, and then we can stop recording.
Okay. Firstly, I, being from an older generation, we look at all of you young people with a great hope that you all will produce a better India than us, than what my generation gave it to you. That's one part of it. And secondly, you all are more intelligent. You all must do hard work. To shine like sun, you have to burn yourself like sun. And in everybody's career and life, there are ups and downs, there are failures, and there are successes. Every failure is actually, if you take it as a failure, then you feel bad. But if you accept failure as success postponed and area where to work more, then you come out stronger after every failure. So that is another thing which I would like to tell. Reading and writing is important, because anything in whichever profession you are, if you read and write, then when you write, a lot of things get clearer in your own mind, because you do a little more research when you write. Right. So that helps you in any field. And some very good leaders all over the world, you would have found where Gandhiji used to write. Same is the case with Chiang Kai-shek used to write. I went to Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh, who is respected and worshipped in Vietnam, he was a big writer. So I've seen that people who have been into this, they have really done well. And apparently that should be one direction which I think should be imbibed by everyone. Diplomacy and international affairs is interesting. and it is part of our life now. So therefore, you here, this is a good hobby too, and this is a good pastime too, and it's a good entertainment too, if you go deeper into it. So I would say that you all must imbibe this idea of reading and writing. You will do well, and of course work hard in whatever you are doing, whatever profession are you doing. I'm sure, and I wish all of you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.